Yeah, so probably you did just give that bit of introduction around yourselves wanting to be more active on the social media side of things. Maybe just a quick, as I said, I've got the couple of websites. Andrew, maybe just a quick overview of what you're doing. So you're a clearly financial advisor. In fact, I've got it up there, but yeah, maybe you give your what's your 60 seconds normally sound like when you're standing up at BNI?
Yep. So I'm a financial advisor. Yep. Within game advice, but I also specialise in exchange traded funds as an investment. So what I'm trying to do is create a presence where I can actually YouTube videos and other education things, so I can actually make and sell online courses. I've given a couple of courses at the Yarraville Community Centre before, so my next stage is releasing them. But I thought I need an online presence before I start, trying to sell courses, because the first thing I will do is look at the person and then look at their websites.
True. Awesome. And what about for you, Greta? You've been practicing law for how long now?
Oh, for ages. I'm a family lawyer,
Yep.
and so I help people with all sorts of matters: property matters, parenting matters, intervention orders. I could take them through the court process. I take them through mediation. Court's a last resort, of course, but through mediation, I've just become an accredited mediator, so that's all. So I'm setting myself up as a mediator as well shortly. But so all things family law, and I'm also getting into wills and estates now, so I'm starting to build that up as well.
The mediation side of things is awesome. As somebody that had to go through that in the late 2000s, the mediation side of things was fabulous, to be honest. It certainly was a good way of getting through. And as you mentioned, so you just both, you've been speaking to a few different people about your marketing and businesses in just improving over the last couple of months, and hence you're kind of speaking to me. So maybe I should have put my little part up here as well. So just realistically, just so you know, and we're all part of BNI. I guess we should also say that. But yeah, so I've been. In fact, I joined BNI when there was no such thing as a social media marketing category back about 10 years ago. So I joined as a marketing consultant, having studied marketing at Monash, finished in 2013, and subsequently joined BNI. Someone invited me down to Williamstown. And I've kind of worked with about 500 plus businesses since that time, just to help them with their social media marketing. And a lot of them have been BNI businesses. So they're typically that sort of sole trader to extra small type businesses in terms of just helping set them up and do their management and reporting. In fact, I'm in a reporting month, reporting week of the month at the moment, just providing reports for all of our businesses. So yeah, basically, all of us have our sort of website presence. But yeah, one of the things that I thought that we could start with, and feel free to sort of ask questions as we go. Although we have X amount of time, but maybe I'll get the feedback. But as pipe up if there's something that you're not sure about or whatever. But this is the model that I've effectively been using for about. As I said, probably a decade, realistically. It's tweaked and changed and things have updated. Twitter used to be called Twitter and now it's X. There was no such, Instagram got bought by Facebook when I started, so that changed. Google used to have a thing called Google Plus, but yeah, it's always sort of changing. But people always go, oh, it must be a changing space. Realistically, it just slowly the wheel turns and things change and other things come about. And yeah, so long as you're always looking at it, it doesn't feel like it's changing in a hurry, but clearly, if you're not looking at it all the time, then it may well feel like that. I guess probably the best place to sort of start is in this middle section, right? So essentially, just to explain that we use a particular, and given what you said to me at the start is around you want to increase your online presence. Right. So we use a particular model where effectively we integrate the social media with the website, and so that it actually proofs you almost as a social business. So in other words, you're not just a business that just wants to throw stuff at people. You want to receive feedback back, and it's a two-way communication street, which is really the advantage of social media, right? So website and other forms of marketing often are a one-way street, right? So you can't then talk back. Clearly you can with things like email, and you can with networking, but certain online things have always been one way, and the opportunity that exists with social media has become is that we can talk to each other, others can talk about us. Our clients can talk to each other, our strategic partners to talk about others. All the things that we can do in offline networking, you can do pretty much in online networking, right? But our strategy is basically to proof the business and increase the presence, because nowadays, particularly having had gone through COVID, right? All of a sudden, your online asset became a whole lot more valuable. And your online asset isn't just your website. Your online asset is also these social media channels. So your 4 social media channels, the key 4 ones are your LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then the other 2 are Google owned products. So you can now do Google updates, and Google owns YouTube. And so
Yep.
you were talking about doing online courses and that sort of stuff. Well, clearly, they can be recorded and they can be uploaded to your website, or they can be shared directly across your social media. Now, our approach with any content that's created, whether it's just simple about you content, um, services content, testimonial content, we always suggest to put that on your website first, so that it can then be shared to the social media sites. So you get the benefit of both worlds that way, right? You get the benefit of Google and all its algorithm munches that work out the keywords and all that sort of stuff. And at the same time, you're able to use that information and repurpose that to the social media sites, which are more have a life cycle. They're a bit here today, gone tomorrow, like newspapers were in the past. So if you kind of understand newspapers, you pretty much understand social media. Social media is all about a news feed that's here today, gone tomorrow, or usually within a week, depending on which platform we're
Yep.
talking about. The only difference to that is when you advertise. So clearly, if you're advertising in Facebook and Instagram, well, then that ad is being going out every day. So that's the difference. You're putting money on stuff. But essentially, that's the principle and the model of how your website and your social media work together. Does that make sense?
Okay, so put everything on your website
Well, the
first.
reality is it needs to be connected. And the other
Yep.
thing is the mistake often people will make. Sorry, Fridays is bin days at my place, and the truck's just
Okay.
arrived out the front. Here we go, just going further. Yeah, if you put your icons and how you want to be contacted up there, so they're visible. This is your $1 million space. Put them up the top
Yep.
and have them opening in a different tab. Right? Don't have them opening over the top. So in other words, if you want to go to Dify Social's LinkedIn, you don't want it opening over the top of the of your website. Otherwise, people will go, "Oh, I've got a notification there," and then they'll forget that they're actually in your website in the first place. You want to keep them opening so that people have to go back to where they started. Otherwise, it becomes a window away. Does that make sense? But anyway, more's the point. Yes, integrate them within your social media. There's other things. Clearly, it's important on your website. You want to have a clear and concise call to action, and there are other plugins that you can actually have. Um, I'm not a web developer, but clearly I work closely with web people, and we've been taught to read websites from the top left, down, and up. So you kind of just do it. Should be sitting up the top here. So in other words, Diffy Social is do it for you social media marketing. You have your banner or cover image that should be then consistent across all your social medias, so people know it's the same business. Chunky services are often better. But that said, you then go up here. How do you contact us? This is where people expect to see, particularly small businesses, right? A lot of corporates will put all their contacts, it'll be down here, but we're all lazy. No one wants to scroll down to the bottom of the website to see where your phone number is, or have to click on your contact us to find out how to get in contact with you necessarily. We want to see everything visible and make it as easy as possible to get in touch with us. Does that make sense? So that's the website development. I don't know who the web person is in your chapter, but they're usually a very good sort of referral partner for me in terms of how we marry up. We got Hillary in Williamstown chapter, and the guy that was actually the first ever web person in my chapter is actually the guy I've been working with for about a decade now, and he does a lot of tweaks and changes when I sort of work with clients. So just to upgrade websites so they're all talking the way they need to talk to one another. So that's your website and your
Yeah.
yeah.
So is that common? Should every website person know how to do that?
Oh,
Or is that
web people, yeah. So effectively, whenever I'm finished a session, effectively, say, I did a planter boxes business yesterday, right? So, in actual fact, something probably for you guys, just so you know, we got a blog where you can kind of pretty much go through any of, in this case, it is a scroll down where you can see all the people we work with, but what you can also see is all the channels that we set up. When we set those up, we then tell our client, we give them the links to send to the web person for updating, and also suggest that they add there's an ads pixel that goes behind the website to help measure traffic, so that I know that things are working. There's some plugins that you can add as well. But yes, to your question, Andrew, definitely web development. That's not a hard thing for them to do. It's just often it's a bit of code or a little bit of a link that they're putting in just to add to the websites. Yeah.
So if we've got one already, don't necessarily have to swap. They should
Oh
be
yeah,
able
no,
to.
no, 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 no. You're not clearly. I don't know what the numbers are now, but often 80 to 90% of websites are WordPress based. Clearly, WordPress is often what we're talking to people about. But yeah, realistically, the plugins work whether it's a Shopify, a Wix, those sorts of things. There's still similar sorts of scenarios. So that's the approach, as I said in the first place. But understanding where social media kind of fits within the scheme of things, we've already mentioned that we're business networkers, right? So business networking is a form of communication, right? We're out there to market our business. We're not selling per se, are we? Have you heard that sort of point? Selling is repelling. It's kind of the same on social media, right? So if you do heavily graphic images, and this is a really common mistake, you'll see a lot of BNI chapters do it actually. So I know, as the social media person for my own chapter, right? I know that if I do a picture of chapter members and meetings and those sort of things, they perform a lot better than if I do a hard Canva tile that's asking people to come along to them, because all of a sudden, within feeds, it's a jarring image. Yeah, understanding that we're kind of looking, doesn't matter what we're looking at, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. If we're looking through at the things we're following, a lot of that could be our friends' content. Some of it could be companies or sporting teams or whatever it is that we're interested in. And if all of a sudden you've got a hard Canva image, other than Instagram, because Instagram people don't read the post, but it often jars. Does that make sense? It's kind of disruptive in our feed, and we don't like to see it per se. But anyway, sorry, that's probably getting away from the fact that essentially communicating, the way I explain communication is in social media context. That's your everyday, every second day post to the different social media channels, um, versus promotion, which is advertising, right? So I've got a little sort of thing over here where we talk about the fact that less than 50% of businesses and small business, remember, small businesses are 87% of business or something, less than 50% have any social media presence. What that means is the 50% might have a Facebook page. Now, often those Facebook pages haven't necessarily been set up to actually show them off in a positive light. But the second thing is less than 30% of businesses have ever advertised. So we know that Facebook is not generous when it comes to organic algorithm. So in other words, if I'm posting, and let's use the BNI example again, if I'm posting on a day-to-day basis, generally less than 10% of the followers, so our chapter has about 400 followers, less than 10% will actually see it in their feed, even though they're following it. Does that make sense? Less than 10%.
That's not automatic.
And if you're not following, you won't see it at all, right? So the idea is you want to get people following it, but but it's a folly to think that just because they're following it, they're going to see all your posts. They're not, because they could be following 100 other things. They've probably got 500 friends. There's all sorts of things that are going to knock you out of people's feeds, right? So Facebook will generally give, and in fact, it can be as low as 1%, depending how often is you're posting, and that side of things. So the organic algorithm is very low. Facebook is very ungenerous when it comes to it, because it's competing with all sorts of other things, as I said, in terms of your feed. But where they are generous, and more generous than they have ever been, as soon as you spend $1. So in other words, for most of my businesses, we recommend spending $5 a day to advertise, whether it's for reach. So in other words, eyeballs plus traffic. So we know that as soon as we promote for reach and traffic, then all of a sudden we'll get, instead of having, a BNI, for example, instead of, where I said with the followers, you might have organically, you might get 300 people see your posts in a month that you're not promoting. As soon as you're promoting at $5 a day, you'll start to get 10 to 15,000 people seeing things. A lot more people, right? And if I'm promoting for clicks to website, you're going to get hundreds going across to the website from traffic as well to find out more. It's all about educating. So that's the other thing, is people often get confused around organic social media posting to the five areas that we can post to. So the 5 key ones, there's others, but there's 5 key ones that we do, as is these 4 down here. And then your Google updates where we're posting to. So that's your Google map. All right. So as I said, without getting bogged down on that, because otherwise we'll run out on time. But the reality is, there's organic communications, which just staying top of mind with the people that already know of you and think of you, might want to refer you, that sort of thing. That's where day-to-day posting is good. And then promoting is getting to the people that have no clue who you are at this point. So unless you do advertising, you're not going to get to those people otherwise. There's certain little hacks you can do, but in the main, you will only get to the people that already know you if you're only posting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's truth in
That's
it. I've found that to be my experience, and it's only when people talk to others, but otherwise it's just it's the same old people.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that you can do, as I said, there's a couple of little hacks. You can throw them into groups and things along those lines, but that's not suitable for every business. And even then, they'll get fed up with you, because it look like promoting your own business. And as I said, people often don't like that in groups. So let me just start with the other thing that people often get a little bit confused with. So I'm a business social media marketer. But what we do is set up people's LinkedIn in order for them to succeed. So the power of LinkedIn, and it is the most powerful of the social media from a personal and direct. And it's certainly the most powerful social media to be using in conjunction with your BNI networking and any offline networking. Right. So you should never really go to a networking meeting, or it's my opinion, without sort of coming back and then, if there's some visitors or people that are part of the membership, connect with those people. We would have already done this, and then basically you have that connection. So that then I know, oh yeah, there's Andrew's financial plan. I know Greta, she's a. So it's the next best thing. I would argue, if I wasn't doing BNI, I would just exclusively look at LinkedIn as my way of doing it. And I'm not talking about paid LinkedIn. I'm just talking about, in fact, most people that pay for the gold badge on LinkedIn completely are paying for a Ferrari and don't know how to ride a bicycle. So the reality is, LinkedIn nowadays, there's not too many restrictions about who you can connect with. So effectively, you can connect with whoever you really want to, as long as you don't become spam like. But at the same time, you give them a reason to connect to you, right? So it's always important, if you're going to connect with somebody, you say, "Hi Andrew, hi Greta, I'm I see you're in BNI. It'd be good to connect and stay in touch." That sort of thing, right? So that's LinkedIn. So
LinkedIn, vitally important, works well with the
so
BNI.
LinkedIn is for you personally. So again, you want to make sure. So what I was going to have a quick look at, and this is what we normally sort of do for businesses. So I've kind of given you a bit of an understanding, right? So at the moment, if I just look at
Yep.
your website, Andrew,
Yep.
it would suggest to me it would suggest to me at the top, it would suggest to me at least, um,
Yep.
that you're not doing any social media. But then I scroll down and I see you actually do have a couple. You've got Facebook,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
is opening to a new tab. So let's have a quick look at this, right? So straight away, as I said, this is okay because I can see that this is where your profile should be. But because I can't read it, I would actually just use
Yep.
your chest piece, and
Yep.
this is repelling. I don't like this at all. I mean, this should be maybe a picture. If this was my business and this was me, for all of your covers, someone who I think is quite a good example, but actually well, you can go and have a look elsewhere. But I would use maybe a picture of you with side on to camera speaking to the sort of clients that you talk to. It should
Yep.
be a real image, real people, real image,
Yep.
because this works okay on print and other things, but this it doesn't work well on social media, right? Um, the other thing is this is completely the same. This is terrible. This works okay, so this sort of stuff is the last thing you want to put into social media. You can see you've got no engagement in there, right? And even if you were to promote that, it would be very hard to get engagement. This is better. This sort of imagery is better. Um, Clearly there's an element of okay, 70. Well, I'm not going to get too picky around, but in terms of what you're not doing is giving me any call to action on this stuff, though, right? So you're
Yep.
telling me you're putting it in there, so it's kind of what I can see here is nice. You're sort of doing nice. Well, as I said, some of
Yeah.
these picture ones, but what you're not doing is, and what we would typically do, and as I said, I might just use I'll use the by way of an example, the president of my chapter, just because he's recent, right? So
Yep.
if I go and he was probably, I don't think he'd mind saying a little bit the same. So again, this sort of image now is the image he's got on all of his social media covers, and it's just from his website as well, right? So that what does that
Yep.
straight away? What does that tell you? Is that somebody you'd want to do business with? More likely, right? Because he used to have hard graphics, the same as you, right? So then, if we go to say I'll go to his Facebook page. We'll see a couple of the newer posts, right? So again, here the difference is stark, and then that's how you can contact us. You could phone us. This one actually we're about to promote, but we haven't started promoting it yet.
Yep.
But you can see we haven't started promoting it, but he's already got some engagement because people love James, particularly
Yep.
your B&I network, right? So,
Yep.
and then even this sort of one here, right? So again, there's no promotion on that, and yet look at the engagement he's getting. And so the other thing is you can also see there, book a free obligation-free call, and how do you do that? The information is there. So there's a call to action on the socials. And I should say that call to action exists not just on Facebook. Um, it exists, if we promote it, it'll exist on Instagram, but on Instagram, you can't have a call to action. But it also exists on LinkedIn. It's existing on Google, the updates that are going to Google, and it's existing on his Twitter as well. So all of the pages we're posting to have that same call to action, and different audiences are going to look. So maybe, so from that perspective, and I imagine yours wouldn't be too much different, but I don't know. Let's have a look at you, Greta. So again, this sort of image, if you're going to use, so for me, straight away from a website perspective, Greta, I would, even having this sort of background image, it's a little bit too generic, right? So to
Yeah, I
go,
want to get rid of it. Yeah, I
so to go
agree.
paddling off into the, that's nice, but these sort of images are probably better if you were going to use a generic one. So, so I've got, we've got a Queensland lawyer that we have used a black and white type photos as their cover across everything, and it is family type pictures. But like you said, this sort of image, and you might create that, that might be the cover. You've got sort of one parent facing one way, one going the other, but you still got the child. That's actually quite a good image, right? But then have we got any socials? So there's no
No,
social proofing there. And it looks like there's no socials. So the other thing is sort of,
Can I ask you something
yeah,
about the get in touch thing at the bottom? I want to get rid of it because it's not working. Nothing seems to come through to me. I've
yeah.
tried to,
Oh, you mean this down here?
yet people are contacting me, and I can't seem to get it
Yes,
fixed. My people.
often for
So
some reason it finishes up in spam. Have you checked your spam?
I've checked everything, and my person that's set it up for me says it works from their end. So I was just thinking of getting rid of it and just putting my contact details. So like, just
Yeah, no,
what's it?
I would. Well, for a start, there's a couple of issues, right? So, firstly, as you said, I imagine that then goes down to there.
No, I
Um,
just want to get rid of it and just put my email and my number, and
yeah, well,
because it's not going to go anywhere.
yeah, well, you need to. It just needs to be fixed, and it needs someone to be able to fix it properly. So that doesn't seem like the right answer. So without getting critical of your web person, but yeah, that should just be coming through, and you should have contact form on the page. A lot of people, to avoid spammers, is actually better than having this stuff on here. Often you'll get a lot more spam when you don't have a contact form. But the other thing, yeah, as we're saying, I was just going to mention Greta, but there are people that can help if, or maybe get a second opinion, or go back and just suggest that there's no reason that shouldn't come through to you. It seems like if it's coming through to them, then maybe you need to, yeah, they should be able to explain to you why or how you can then see it, or why it's not getting through. That would be if that was happening to me, I wouldn't be too happy with that answer. That
Can I
makes
just,
sense.
hey Steve,
Yeah.
just commenting, can you scroll back up to the top of Greta's page?
Yeah.
See, I can't see a call to action up there.
No, there's no call to
Is that
actions
what
in
I'm
here.
missing?
So yeah, so this is your $1 million space, and this part's okay. Like you'd not put it under the. You've got. I don't think you have a logo per se, right? So you kind of don't have a brand. It doesn't seem anyway. Well, that's just
I
the
do
name.
now. I'm going to get it
Okay.
all
Yeah,
changed.
yeah. So yeah, but you're telling me you're a boutique family law practice, so that sort of helps position. But you're right. There's opportunities here for some chunky sort of call to action. Whether it's a book now or a book, whatever it might well be. Yeah. So from a web perspective, but as I said, you don't have any socials. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not social. So what we normally do to look at what you have. So straight away, if we put Hayward Solicitors up, well, that's good. So in a way, you've created your Google business. You can see there that again. So is that the address? Did you create that, or has Google created that?
Google has, and that's where I am.
Yeah,
So I
yeah. So
need to
that's
have
where you
another.
are. So Google's created it for you. So you probably need to make sure you got the keys and ownership. Be good to get some reviews. The other thing, so as I said, your website is your most searchable thing, but Facebook's actually your second most searchable thing, and that you wouldn't know that you've actually got it. So if I open that up, so again, if we were to look at your so from a consistency, you're doing the same thing, right? So this again, you've got that ask about. So you realistically, excuse my French, but yeah, Hayward Solicitors should sit in here, the branding, as in the name, and then you and your clients, because it's all about your clients. They don't really care about us per se. They care about us, what you can do to help us. So
Yeah.
show an image of people that you can do. And so this sort of consistency. So if holding your hand through divorce and separation is now your new sort of catch cry, that should be consistent across everything, right? So that's slightly different to what I think I saw over here, right? So holding your hand, make that your catch cry, so that's your positioning. And again, with that, it's probably a similar sort of scenario. So these sort of things, as I said, this works okay on Instagram. A lot of freelancers, if you've had anybody, or even when people try and do it themselves, they think Instagram first. Big mistake, because effectively, for a start, so you can see that this is a page that reeks of Instagram first thinking, right? Which is okay on Instagram. But on Facebook, where we expect to be able to click and find out more, there's no links, right? So even if you're going to use Meta, or if you're going to post via Instagram, have in mind what's it going to look like back on Facebook, because that's where more people are, and where people can go to your website to get more information with calls to action in the post itself, right? So these posts are okay. I can see you've only just started. So again, you'd sort of, there's nothing else to probably say here. But as I said, you can see that with your one's interesting, Greta, because the three most, the two next most searchable, in fact, three if we include, you got your map. I consider that a social media because we can post updates through here. You're not posting them, but you can. There's your Facebook page, your LinkedIn, and it's actually you on LinkedIn, not your business, which would suggest you probably haven't set up a company on LinkedIn, maybe.
Yes, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, so here, so you have set up a company, but that's again, the company's not you. Well, it may be you, but the company should be your brand. So otherwise, it looks too, again, from a branding exercise, you need to separate yourself from the business, even if you're the only one in the business. Does that make sense? And it helps make you look bigger and more professional and all that sort of. So you have a company brand, you have a personal brand. But that just looks like it needs revising and setting up properly. So,
is that what most people do? They have a business brand.
Of course,
in
yeah, of
LinkedIn.
course. And look, the other thing is, I think
So
I opened up mine before. So I've just been doing it. So, and the other, and LinkedIn's business brand is actually, so just hang on. Well, actually, what I'll do is I'll go via me, right? Just so you can sort of see. So firstly, there's a big opportunity with your own profile to actually say who you are and what you do and who you do it for.
Yeah.
You got about 200 here. I don't think either of you have used that. Secondly, yes, you can see the easiest way to get to your actual business is you click on your logo and then it comes up. Now you can see. So for my business, to your question, I've got an almost equal following on LinkedIn as what I do on Facebook, and LinkedIn's organic algorithm is more generous, right? And it's more professional. So I've had 503 impressions. In other words, people seeing my posts on LinkedIn. I don't know how that compares, but I know from a paid perspective, I wouldn't, unless I paid for it, I'm probably not getting that on Facebook for my brand on Facebook. And not only that, you get the search benefit as well. I've appeared 87 times on LinkedIn search for my brand as well. So creating and growing your LinkedIn company. And remember, if we go back to here, all of these all of these channels are assets for your business, right? So,
Yep.
so ultimately, I've just had one client that was bought out by a big insurance company this week, right? So they sold everything, right? So their website, all their socials, you can imagine, particularly since COVID, all of these things have become a lot more valuable, particularly if you've got following and people that are listening to your messages and that sort of stuff. So not only, and I can tell you that over the years, I've had plenty of particularly blokes that look a little bit like me that don't want to be in their business for too much longer. So they want to make sure they've got their house in order before they sell it. Right. So, and the baby boomers are going to be gone in the next couple of years. So, or more than likely. So ultimately it's good to get the house in order, but get the benefit of the house in order. Sorry, this is clicked over. I'll just unclick this over so we can see the screen. But yeah, so just going back to what we were talking about though, it's about creating your company business on all of these channels and having the details all complete. The other thing, and I guess probably I didn't really talk about this, but like any marketing, how do you measure success? Yeah. So firstly, I guess in our process, really we have once-off fees around setting up and for business, and we do a planning session in terms of what are we going to say, where are we going to say, and who are we going to advertise to. And then it's a matter of how much retained business, how much new business are you achieving by way of your social media marketing. So that's one thing just to point out. But the other thing, I think I would have sent you. Oh, geez, it keeps clicking over this little thing here. Sorry. The one thing, maybe the easiest thing for me to show you, yeah. So from I think the best part is why do it, right? So, so the aim of any social media is this. So if people often say to me, "Oh, I've had marketing people contact me or do things, or I even had people do it." If you don't know what the objectives are, then don't do it, right? But this is the objectives that we explain to people that you should be trying to achieve from your social media. So you want to protect and build equity in your brand, in your business. Does that make sense? So in other words, make your business more valuable. You want to differentiate your business from your competitors. And we already know that most small businesses don't do social media. Certainly know that most B&I small businesses don't. So it's straight away you got differentiation by being on brand and across the different socials. You want to be top of mind with particularly with the people that already know you. And so that's what those ongoing posts are about. And that's the ones that, as I said, help with retained business and help with referred business. And you want to increase your business development opportunities, whatever your business is. As you know, we're all in professional services, right? So from a professional service, we want to increase. But I've just finished, a roll-in car wash. It could be a delivery, it could be entertainment, those sort of ones. Certain ones certainly have greater. It's often easier for certain businesses. We're more entertaining on social media, but it doesn't mean there's not a place for every business on social media because of what we're trying to achieve. So ultimately, you want to increase business. As I said, the way that we do that is by getting more people seeing the business and the brand and what you're educating them about, and getting them across back to the website so that they can find out more. So the idea is, and again, from a call to action, so for me, often I'm trying to get them to here, right? So to this, ask for an audit. And so in here, it's like, are you interested? And so if they're interested, that's where we want to get them to. So the only reason I sort of show you this rather than clients, because you would have the same on most of my clients, is the reality is I'm not a business that doesn't eat their own dog food. I've always been doing it for myself first, as well as for the businesses we work with. So in a way, we try and practice what we preach. So in other words, how we set up the pages and how we show off the socials and how we want people to contact us, that sort of thing. And as you pointed out, Greta, in a way, people can still go to our contact page, but it probably de-emphasizes it a little bit, because I find that the same thing, even with my contact form, I often do have to go ferrying out of the spam, because often it is a bit spammy. So I don't know if that's one of the reasons, but yeah. So
the reason I asked was also because the other day I met at a BNI meeting. I met an IT person who said that people were moving away from that anyway. They were just leaving their number and email address, and I just wondered what your thoughts were. I guess that's why I
yeah,
raised it.
it wouldn't be my advice. You do hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people, but it wouldn't be my advice. I haven't seen that. I don't. I would suggest most of our clients using a WordPress would have a contact form. And in fact, yeah, so more often it's people wanting to work out how they have more of a, the lead type forms, in terms of, and again, often people ask me around lead pages versus website. Well, realistically, I feel that lead pages often are a little bit too salesy for my liking. So it's not our approach. So our approach is to try and get people to websites so they can then, find out more about the business and, go through the process of then contacting you. Because realistically, you would know even from our networking processes. Realistically, we want to get to know people. We want to trust people before we're doing business with people, right? So hard lead forms in my business, and it's always a bit of an alarm bell when I hear people sort of talk to me. I want leads, or I want this. It's a bit like, oh, really? Because it's often they've been almost sold that sort of Google digital agency type mentality, which it's not to say it doesn't work, but it often comes at a price tag. And I've seen a lot of people that can't quite work out the value they receive for the thousands of dollars they spend. So yeah, I think that's so. In other words, as I said, it's not to say that having lead pages isn't a reasonable approach, but it's just not the approach that I use. So, anyways,
Okay.
That's interesting.
yeah. So, yeah. Well, hopefully, have probably gone a little bit longer than we expected, but is there any questions or feedback from Michael Royal? How are you? Sorry, before I couldn't see your little head in the background there.
Yeah, no, I thought it was most interesting and insightful, and it's good to know all the things I need to improve on, and things, you've sort of raised my awareness of a lot of things I hadn't considered. So
it just opens up more questions, really.
Yeah.
So that
Well, that's often the
LinkedIn-
case. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's the reason my business is called Dify is because my greatest competition is DIY. And often, as I said, when I go and do the audits for people, you kind of look through and you go, oh my goodness. But the other thing is, particularly if people do finish up coming on board, I send them a checklist of what we're going to work through, right? And I explain to them specifically, do not try and do this prior to us getting together, because it'll just take you twice as long. And I'll probably finish up be fixing things with you anyway. It's a bit like, I don't know why, but I come to mind with, if you were going to hang your own TV or put your antenna up, you probably could do it if you wanted to, so that you could get all the channels that you want to have. But yeah, anyway, as I said, ultimately, hopefully, as you mentioned, there's a few little simple tips in terms of, particularly around content marketing. Around content marketing is only two things, right? So it's the images we use and the words we use. So social media, we know that soft, real images work best, and the wording that we use is much better to be you and your rather than we and our. There's a place for we. Michael Royal might say, well, we've just won the award for blah, 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 and that's fine. But there's only a small, but you wouldn't want to be doing all of your posts like that, because people really care about themselves more so than they care about us and our business, right? So you need to talk into, we know that going through divorce is trying, and so you need to talk about from their perspective. Actually, just looking at Hayward, we cover all aspects of. So I think on your Facebook, I think the way you put it was better. I think holding your hand, that's the sort of terminology you want to have. And certainly when we're posting on socials, that's the sort of language we try and use, is you and your, and then to find out more, speak to us, sort of thing. You go along those lines. So yeah.
Yep.
All right. I've got quite I'll put stop on this. Yeah.